Hey, Kyle here with Century Lawn and Landscape. Today I'm going to go over the irrigation controllers. I'm going to go over some of the basic features and setup. And I'm going to go over the two most common type of controllers that we have or that we see out there, and that's going to be the Hunter Pro C and then the Rainbird ESP. These are your two typical ones. Really, if you know how to use either one of these, you can figure out any of the others, with the exception of the Toro one, but you don't see a lot of those out there. But these are going to be your two most common ones. So first we'll get into the Hunter, and then we'll look at the Rainbird. All right, so with the Hunter Pro C, the best way to do this is just to start at the dial and run, and then we can work our way around clockwise, and we can go through all the settings. Pretty simple. Once you do it a couple times, you'll have it down. So first thing is, when it's in the run position, that will run any programs that we have set. It means it is on, it's ready to go. It'll run all your irrigation, whatever you have set up at the time you set it. So to kind of get everything going first, or if you need to change the time with daylight savings, this is going to be the first setting, and it's the date and time. And right now it's saying 2019. And to change what you're setting, or whether it's the date, month, or time, you'll use the arrow keys. So now we're at the month and then the day. And to change anything, you'll use the plus and the minus. So if it's actually the 22nd, August the 22nd, we'll go there. You can also do the same thing with the time. We're AM, and change the hour plus or minus, and that's basically it on the date and time. Pretty simple, but we'll just continue on. And this is the start times. So what this means is that, and we'll get into the programs later, but on program A, which typically you'll have everything set up under, it is going to come on at 12:15 a.m. and this means it's going to run the entire program starting at 12:15 a.m. You don't need to go through each one of these start times and set those up. If you do that, so right now it's off, so this will run the entire program once at 12:15 a.m. If you come into start time 2 and set a time, it'll actually run the entire program once, and it'll come to this one and run the entire program a second time. This is good for when we're under our pretty severe water restrictions. You can run a second time or the first time in the morning, second one in the evening, so you can get a little bit more water down. There are other reasons for growing in seed or plants or anything like that you would use this. But for right now, we don't need this. We're just gonna have one time set. So our first run time set at 12:15 a.m. and that'll run program A, one cycle around starting early in the morning. Now if we need to set or change the settings of the individual stations or zones, you'll do this on the run times. And right now we have station 1 set at 10 minutes, and you can go through to station 2, 3, and so on, depending on how many you have, and adjust those. You adjust them by using the plus or minus. So if you need, if you're seeing a little area getting high a little bit more or need less water, you can adjust this by bumping up the run time. So we'll run station 6 for a little bit extra, or whatever you have set to. Going over to water days, this will change depending on if you're in Austin, where we're just under 1 day a week restrictions. For permanent, you really don't have to come to this too often, but this is where you can change all your days. And same thing with the arrow keys. We will cycle through, and we can plus or minus whether we want the days to run or not. If it has the little circle with the cross through it, it will not run that day. It'll only run on like this Thursday right here, where it has the raindrop by itself. So Thursday and Sunday right now. So now we'll go and just keep going around. This is the seasonal adjust percentage right here. This is a good one. We always like to change the run times by the season. In your summertime, you need to run more water than you do in the winter. And instead of going through to the run times and changing every single station individually, you can go to the seasonal adjust and do everything across the board in one setting. So right now it's set at 100%. So all of our zones or stations that were set at 10 minutes will run for 10 minutes. So say we're getting into the summertime and we need those to run, everything to run a little bit longer, we can bump this up to say 120%, and now all those will run for 12 minutes instead of 10. So it's a quick little way to get everything adjusted real fast. It's, takes you just a few seconds. I recommend doing it each season to adjust this. So as we get into the fall, you might, depending on our weather, you might need 100% or even down, 90, 80%, depending on where you're at. And then in the winter time, you can come in and you can put this all the way down to 50%. And, just again, depends on how much rain we're getting and the type of plants and turf you have out there. That's going to be your, a good setting to know how to use. The solar sink, we will not get into. Most systems don't have this on, but it's a kind of like your rain sensor. You can put it on and it will basically just picks up the amount of sunlight we're getting, and it'll use that to determine whether or not it needs to run. Because a lot of these rain sensors, it'll say, hey, I got rain, and then it dries out really fast or not fast enough, and a lot of times it won't hold the system long enough, or it won't come on soon enough. This solar sync will take in how much sunlight it's getting and take that into effect, and is a little bit more accurate. So on the manual setting right here, this is where you can turn each station on individually to test it, or just to run something you may have that needs a little bit extra water or planting. And what you'll do is put it on manual and you'll select the station. So if we want, say, station 5 is the backyard, we want to run that right now, we'll put on station 5. We can adjust the minutes if we need to, and then you'll just quickly put it to run, and now station 5 is running. This little icon with the sprinkler head running, that's telling you it is on. So pretty basic. If you need to turn anything off ever, whether it's the whole system or that one, you just put it to off and it'll highlight off. And now to run the entire program, if you need to run the entire system right then and there, it's pretty simple. You'll just be on run, and it even says right over here, manual start, press and hold. So right now it's going to run through all the stations on program A. If you need to run a program B, then you can just right here at the beginning, and you have to do it a little bit faster than that, but you'll do it pretty quick. You can change the program you have on, and I will get into the programs right now. So a good reason to have multiple programs is if you do add planting, whether it's new beds or new turf areas, you'll need to water those more often than your existing landscape. So, or if you have trees that are on bubblers that need to run 3 days a week, because a lot of bubblers and drip tubing are exempt from water restrictions, so those can run more. So a lot of times you'll come into program B, we can set a time for them to run, and then just like on program A, you can go through and say you have trees that need 3 days a week. Say it's on station 7, you can come in here, put the time that we want it to run, and it's on program B. They will run at 10 p.m. and then we can actually come down to the watering days and set the days we want it to run. So we want it to run 3 days a week. We'll come over to, say, Sunday, turn it on, and always make sure you put it back into run. Don't forget that part, and the system will run automatically. That's basically the basics of the Hunter, and we'll move over to the Rainbird, which is not too different from this, but I'll show you those features. All right, so with the Rainbird one, it's kind of the same, where we're just going to go clockwise and follow the dial around, and you can set everything up and check all your settings. So on the first one is setting the date. So you will use the arrow keys to adjust the day, month, and the year. Plus or minus will change them. And then once you're finished with that, you can just go to the set the time, and this is going to be your current time. Same thing, use the arrows to change minutes, hour, or the AM or PM, and plus or minus to change all that. So kind of the same with the Hunter on the set watering times. These are your start times, and the program that you're on. This has multiple programs just like the Hunter. You want to set this the time you want it to start to come on. And whatever time that is, when you have it in the auto or run, it will run the entire program starting at that time. Station run times. This is where you're going to go through and adjust every station or zone and input the minutes that you would like it to run. And it all depends on the type of heads and nozzles and the layout of your system. But this is where you can adjust all this. And then it's a little bit different than Hunter is on the days. You'll actually go through and adjust each day. And just remember, pay attention to the water restrictions. But the X, the cross, the circle and the cross over the water dot means it will not run that day. Plus or minus will turn it on or off. The water droplet that's like on Wednesday and Saturday, it will run those days. So if we go to advanced cycles, that's a little bit different. You got some other modes in there. Typically in our area with the water restrictions, you will not need that. But just like the Hunter, we have the seasonal adjust. This is another one where you want to adjust by the season, and this will adjust all your stations across the board by a percentage. So great way to adjust everything all at once. The Rainbird does have a delay watering. So if you decide that we got an incredible amount of rain and you don't think the rain sensor is going to keep it off but a day or two, but you actually want to stay off more than that, you can come in here and say, I want to not water for the next 5 or 7 days, and it'll hold that. It'll stop the controller from running until those days pass, and then it'll resume on its program. Rain sensor, this is where you can turn on or off your rain sensor. Here in Texas, we're supposed to have these on. There's not really much of a reason to turn these off unless you're running the system a lot for grow in of something and you really don't want to rely on you don't want that rain sensor accidentally turning it off for a small amount of rain when you actually need it to run. Manual station. This is where you can turn on one station at a time. It's a little bit different than the Hunter. You're not going to turn the dial to the auto run up here. You're actually going to select the station that you want and the time, and right here where it says hold to start, you will press and hold this, and then the system will run. And you can see the icon right here is showing you that it's running station 1, and it's going to run for 8 minutes. If you ever have something running and you need to turn it off, simple, just straight to the off, and you'll see it goes to off. Manual program, this is where you want to run the entire program that you have. You'll just press and hold start to get it to run. And then once you get it to start, you can actually just go ahead and put it back in the auto run. I see a lot of people put it here, start the program or start a station or a program, and they forget to put it back in the auto run. You always want to keep it in here unless it's off for either really wet winter or you've got some work going on or parties or something like that where you do not want it to run. The Rainbird does have a great feature, and you always want to check your system. If you can once a month, but at least once a quarter. And what you can do is put it in test all stations. You can have this set to however you want. You have it set for 1 minute if you want to get around faster, or do it for a little bit more. And what you'll do is press to start. And it's going to run through every single station for 2 minutes. And that way you can follow it around pretty quickly and make sure you don't have anything broken, out of adjustment, and everything's working. And whenever you're finished, you can always turn it to the off to get the system to go off. And once it's off, always put it back in the auto run. If wasn't lost or anything, almost all the controllers will have the instructions over here to the side. But that is kind of the basic of these two controllers. You play with it for a little bit and you can figure it out pretty well. There are a couple other little advanced features that you can learn later on, but for now this should get you through it. All right, thank you.